Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today at the Kessler Auction House in Kreisling, Switzerland, taking a look at a number of the guns that they have, including this Franchi Model 57 submachine gun. Now, the Italian Franchi company isn't really well known for its submachine guns, and in fact, this is the very first really commercial production submachine gun that they ever made. Their first prototypes were in 1956. By 1957, they had this pretty much finalized production submachine gun. It's a very simple gun. It's a stamped receiver shell with a number of riveted components added inside it. Feeds from Beretta magazines, 20, 30, and 40 round. And it's, all in all, perfectly decent, good submachine gun. The problem is it was never really able to achieve substantial military or commercial success, because it was always competing against a couple other guns that were just a little bit better or just a little bit cheaper. It was, of course, introduced in 1957, and Franchi was attempting to get Italian military contracts for it. Well, they did manage to sell some to the Italian Navy in approximately 1962, but they did not manage to sell any to the Army, and that was the big contract. Unfortunately for Franchi, the Beretta Model 12, or PM12, won that competition. And the Beretta is one of the guns that Franchi would be competing with for its entire production lifespan, one of the other major ones being the HK MP5. The problem for Franchi was they were just never quite able to match the quality or the cost of the major competitors that were out there. Now, you may notice that this looks very similar to the Walther MPK and MPL. If there is copying that was at hand there, it was on the part of Walther, because this came out before the Walther did. This is definitely one of those guns that has that sci-fi action hero sort of look to it, thanks to the sheet metal construction and the vent holes and all the just little detailed features. However, as I said, it is really a perfectly adequate and fully functional submachine gun. We do have the folding stock here. It is basically just a bent tube stock, and it doesn't have a locking mechanism when it's open. Just lift it up. Well, I shouldn't say no locking mechanism. It has this spring-loaded detent, so to open it, all you do is just pull hard enough to pop it out of that detent, fold it around, and it will snap into the exact same detent when it's locked in the open position. There are markings on both sides. We have the manufacturer here on the right, which is Luigi Franchi, Brescia. Brescia, of course, being the main gun-making area in Italy. And then on the other side, we have the gun's markings itself. It is a submachine gun, or machine pistol, caliber 9, model 57. There is no manual safety on the gun. There's a selector button right here, which is for semi-auto and full auto. And there is a grip safety. Nice and easy to engage. That's not a bad grip safety as those things go. But that is the limit of your mechanical safeties. Trigger, of course. And the magazine release is a bit unusual. Unlike a normal button or lever, this is a very strong spring that you actually lift up, like so. And that allows you to take the magazine out. These guns do use standard Beretta 38 family magazines, so principally available in 20 and 40 round varieties. I'm pretty sure there were also 30 round ones that were made. The charging handle is up here on the left side of the gun. Spring-loaded, non-reciprocating. And of course, it is an open bolt firing gun. So once you have it locked open, pull the trigger, bolt closes, gun fires. Now, the interesting bits of this come in disassembly. So let's start by taking the barrel out. So the barrel nut is held in place by a little ratchet mechanism. There are teeth here on the back surface of the nut, and a little spring-loaded retaining catch there. That is just held in place by a combination of gravity and the spring from the charging handle. So if I have this pointed downwards, it does nothing. However, if I have it pointed upwards and I pull the charging handle back, that retracts, and then I can unscrew the barrel nut. This is actually the entire barrel. You can see this pin here is what's locking the nut that I'm holding on to the barrel itself. Once it's unthreaded, the whole barrel just comes right out. We can then take the charging handle, pull it back to there, and pull it out. At the back of the gun, we have this rear cap with the stock. We're going to push this tab backwards and then lift the rear cap off. It is quite stiff on this example. This is a really new, unused gun. There we go. Once you've got it started, then that removes the stock. You'll notice the bolt is still held in place, and that is because we have to remove the recoil spring. We have this end of it here, and the other end of it right there. What I need to do is reach in the back, push the recoil spring guide forward, and then rotate it 90 degrees, and then it comes out the back of the gun. It's the recoil spring, and now the bolt comes out. And there's the whole thing field stripped. It's a very simple gun to take apart and a very simple gun to manufacture. The bolt is of what we call the telescoping nature, which simply means that while the barrel face is back here, there's a lot of bolt mass extending forward. This allows you to make more efficient use of space in the gun. So you can see how far forward the front of the bolt comes. Instead of this material all having to sit behind the back of the bolt, it can instead sit up here, where we have to have material in the gun anyway in order to make space for the barrel. The bolt face has a simple fixed firing pin. Nothing really special about this. Back here is our sear engagement surface. That's what the trigger mechanism works on. And in the back, a hole for the recoil spring. Note that the guide rod goes all the way clear through the bolt, like so, because the guide rod is going to actually lock in place on the front of the receiver. The spring itself comes all the way up here to the very end of the bolt. At that point, the hole through the bolt narrows and the spring is held captive. So the guide rod stays in place and the bolt just reciprocates back and forth along it. And of course, the receiver, the major component here, this is made in two halves and then welded together. So there's a seam along the whole circumference of the gun. Inside, everywhere you see rivets on the outside, there are things attached on the inside. These three rivets are attaching the barrel trunnion. Note that there is the large hole in the bottom where the barrel comes through and locks in place, and then there's the small hole above and to the left, and that small hole is for the charging handle, which I've reinstalled, so it comes right back there, just pushes on the bolt and physically pushes it back. The rivets up at the front here are to hold in place the front barrel trunnion, which again you need 2 points of contact on the barrel to hold it stable, and then we have the recoil spring guide assembly riveted in place there. The sights on this are very simple fixed notch and post. They look rather like that. Zeroed for 50 meters, pretty typical engagement distance for a submachine gun. And lastly, in the back we have the fire control group. You can see the sear dropping right there. This is in the semi-auto mode. Note that it's engaging the right side for semi-auto, and there's a disconnector. So when I pull the trigger all the way through, the sear is going to drop and then lift back up. If I flip this switch over to full auto, now I'm going to engage the right side. The sear will drop and it will stay down as long as I hold the trigger, hence full auto. One of the classic questions for submachine guns is what sort of safety mechanism is present to ensure that you don't accidentally pull the bolt back far enough to strip a cartridge but not far enough to engage the firing sear and thus fire unintentionally. And the answer is on this there is a lock on the bolt that is connected to the grip safety. So if you don't have the grip safety engaged and you charge the bolt back, it will come to right there, which is just far enough, or rather not quite far enough to strip a cartridge out of the magazine. The bolt is locked there in position. You can no longer engage the grip safety and the bolt will not go forward until you charge the bolt all the way back. Then you can engage the grip safety and fire. So what happens is if you accidentally pull the charging handle, instead of coming back to here and then firing, it will come back to here and lock in place, and then you can fix the gun. Somewhat surprisingly, the Franchi Model 57 managed to stay in production and available for sale all the way up until the 1980s. Apparently these were primarily relatively small export contracts to various African countries. This was never adopted on a wide scale by any European military force. So some of them were made in semi-auto. In fact, in 1962, they introduced a semi-auto only police carbine model, and a few of them actually came into the United States with 16-inch barrels and as semi-auto only guns. However, in the US, it wasn't long. Well, since then, the ATF has ruled that open bolt semi-auto firearms are classified as machine guns because they're easily convertible, and thus most of that limited production or importation of the semi-auto version into the US. Apparently, some of those were actually registered as machine guns in the US and available on the commercial market, but this was never available in any substantial numbers in the US. Kind of like it wasn't really made in any substantial numbers much of anywhere else. So definitely an interesting gun, though, a rare one, and one that was very cool to finally get a chance to take a close look at. So if you are in the market for interesting collectible firearms or machine guns, the Kessler Auction House is one of the biggest ones in Europe, and they always have some cool stuff like this Franchi. So definitely take a look at them if you're in that market. Thanks for watching.